Hello, Neil, and welcome to your deck review. For anybody joining us on YouTube for the first time, this is a series where I look at your commander decks and I review them not from the position of comedy, although I will be making fun of you, but from the position of fixing your PP, which is your premise and your practicum. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the idea of the deck. Are there problems with what you hope it does? And then the practicum, what you actually put in the deck. Are there ways to do what you hope it does better than what you've currently done? So without further ado, let's look at purely mutual benefit, aka, are we outside of 30 seconds? Yes, we are. The Glunch over the pants H-Job deck. So your primer says we're trying to do a Selesnya value strategy with a political twist. That's cute. There's nothing wrong with that in bracket 2. In bracket 2, we can do most things. So we want to make long-term value. We don't want to go to bracket 3. We want to ramp. We want to make a wide creature board with +1/+1 counters. So wide board, +1/+1 counters. Great. Close the game through overwhelming advantage. I think this is a natural consequence of this, so I'm not going to write it as a separate goal. We have some Pillow Fort. We have some hidden synergies. That's cute. Possessed Portal. I will go look at that card. We want to make interesting political decisions. I'm going to put that as a goal because that can sometimes be hard for Selesnya to get to. So interesting political decisions. And then questions are about how fix. So we care about the mana curve. We care about Pillow Fort too much. And we care about any cards that seem low impact. Bad cards. Everybody cares about bad cards. And then feedback on the ramp structure. Will this deck effectively race to mana value 3 and therefore benefit... will this deck effectively race to mana value 3 and therefore benefit more from 1 mana ramp instead of mostly 2 mana ramp? Let us find out together. So I know Glunch is 3 mana, which is a compelling reason you might want to get to 3 mana faster. Let's look at the rest of the curve. Yeah, man, I think you might need a Llanowar elf. You have some stuff at 5. So there's reasons to think about racing to 5. Let's think about it from a turn structure way rather than just a mana structure way. At 3 mana, we seem to get not only most of the deck, we also get our commander. If we want to start contributing to interesting political decisions, I think Glunch is gonna be one of our main engines for getting those decisions going. And outside of that, he's one of our best proactive value engines too. We can choose to build our board with counters, we can choose to draw a card if we need cards, or we can choose to ramp ourselves with treasures. He's very much a Swiss Army jellyfish for us. And so the question I would be asking is both, am I racing to 3 mana, which is super R? Also, what would I want to play on turn 2 that's not Glunch, right? Because every ramp spell, like Arcane Signet, like Cultivate, like Kodama's Reach, like Nature's Lore, like On the Trail, like Rampant Growth, like Sakura Tribe Elder, all of these things are cards that say to me, I don't want to play Glunch on turn 2. Because if I wanted to play Glunch on turn 2, they would be a Llanowar Elf, an Arbor Elf, Birds of Paradise, whatever. Go type in like mana value :1, OTAG ramp, Selesnya. You'll get a ton of shit, and I'll pull those up later. But I feel like for this deck, you really, really, really want to have Glunch on 2, and there's almost nothing. There may be a few spare things, and if I were to pull some off the top, the only thing I can think of are draw engines that work particularly well with Glunch. So that will be things like Esper Sentinel. This, for sure, I would delay Glunch a turn, because instead of ramping to Glunch, I would stick him first, and then I would buff him with Glunch, and then, I'm going to get so many cards because nobody's going to pay. Another reason I could maybe see it happening to a lesser extent, Dusk Legion Duelist, if I wanted to be able to stick a threat early that I could grow and draw cards from it growing, maybe that. But until you have probably more than 10 of these, I would just ramp to Glunch sooner. Like, you can have these in the deck with 10 ramp pieces, and then, oh, on the off chance that I get Esper Sentinel or I get Dusk Legion Duelist instead of ramp, I'm still happy. But I would say the number you want, so I'll class this under mana curve, 10 to 15 things that are either turn 1 ramp or something worth playing. I'll say a permanent, because I don't want you to get confused with like Nature's Lore and other ramp spells, or permanents worth playing before Glunch. Oh god, that T really looks like a plus. That's what I would advocate that your mana curve looks like. And then after that, so we're getting to Glunch on turn 2. We have a lot of mana, which seems a little bit unnecessary, especially when the curve stops here. So you may not even need to be committing this much to mana in total, even after we go down to turn 1 ramping. If you just love fucking Karametra, different story. I get it, 50-foot tall green woman, hell yeah. And if we just enjoy Glorious Sunrise and we're tagging very literally, that's okay. I think on balance, you don't need this much mana in total. Like, ooh, Tireless Provisioner, certainly not a bad card. Maybe we're doing more landfall stuff than I think. I'll hold my tongue so I don't speak in an untoward manner. So what do we have for counters? On upkeep, we get counters. On cast of permanent spells, we get counters. We have a lot of those. On landfall, we get counters. We only have 35 lands. I'm not sure I'm in love with that. On end step, we get a counter on everything, and we get to tax our opponents. Upkeep, we get to put counters on. No. No. All right. With the literal tagging. Okay. Okay, one thing, when it enters and we give it haste, one counter on one thing on end step, or we get something if we control something with big enough power. We have a doubler, and then we have a mana dump. So maybe that's why you're making so much mana. Maybe you have a lot of mana dumps we care about. Counters on ETB. This one is a little tough. Like 3 devotion. We're probably going to be playing elves as ramp. Never mind, you'll hit 3 devotion. Then we have a lot of draw. Before we even look at these, I am going to take a moment to point out what I think is not necessarily a mistake, but some fun you could be missing out on, especially for bracket 2. We have 40 cards that we have tagged as these are dedicated to mana or draw. I don't see a tag for this creates the interesting political decision that I want. And I know that they are ensconced within your other tags, but I think it would help you going forward as you work on this deck and nurture it into a big, strong baby boy, to tag in your own mind, where are the cards that create the interesting situation that I enjoy? If Elish Norn is the interesting situation that you enjoy, great. If Party Dude is, great, because it has that whenever one or more opponents are attacked type thing. But we should be tagging those separately to make sure we don't get too caught up in the details, because bracket 2 is very much the bracket of I don't have to get caught up in the details. And when your commander not only provides you with boards, it gives you a blocker, it gives you a board state, it gives you a card, or it gives you ramp, depending on what you need. Like, when it can do so many things for you, the deck can be a little bit more greedy about, here is just a card I think is silly. So maybe it's the Shuts tag, which this is not interesting political thing, but it is very greedy. Good job. Very greedy. Use those treasures. Use those treasures. And this seems more like throwing up the wall rather than creating the interesting political decision. So that is all to say, I think you probably need less draw and less ramp in total, and more stuff that you think is just neat for bracket 2. Like this is almost, it seems like you've taken a lot of care to make it bracket 2 power level, but you've built it with the bracket 3 mindset of I'm on the rails, everything happens in accordance with the plan in my mind palace. Every card has a well thought out and good use case, and you can be a little bit looser. We don't want total dog shit, but you can be a little bit looser. So we have Beast Whisperer on cast. We have Upkeep if big draw. We have End step if they have poison counters draw, and we can ramp. Not sure if I love that. We have a couple ways to make poison, but this could be, you know, if you just like him and you think it leads to interesting political situations with poison, perfect card. Court of Garenbrig, sure, Monarchy, and you can defend it with Glunch. Power 3 or greater enters, sure. Power 4 or greater enters, sure. Draw a card if we have 3 or greater, okay. Nah. Make a Hippo, or draw a card for each creature you control with power 3 or greater. Okay. Sure. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. Yeah, if we give out treasures, that'll work. So we have ways to get there. We have another Monarchy card. I get something if I play the biggest creature. I definitely would not call that draw in this deck. The deck we have sold so far is I play, if we make this more literal, I play tiny guys and then I make big. I'm already questioning a lot of these things that are checking for them to be big, because like in my mind, once we have a lot of tiny guys and we have the tiny guys big, we're good at that. We don't really need that many more cards at that point. We should be killing people with our army of tiny guys who are now big. But Selvala definitely doesn't. Selvala's definitely like almost none of our deck should be entering as a big guy, which means we're almost always losing out on this trigger. We may eventually be able to tap her for a ton of mana. I don't see what we're putting the mana to use for yet. Whenever a non-token ETBs, I'm not sure if I love that when one of our biggest tag sections is tokens, but draws a card every time a creature enters. Sure. I do think this is a perfect example of, would you rather play this or play Glunch on turn 2? Ask yourself that, and then turn her into an elf if you would rather play Glunch. This is only draw if we play something 3 or greater, and we probably won't be playing too many things that are 3 or greater. Whenever an artifact is put into an opponent's graveyard, draw a card. Okay, cute. Works with the treasure tokens from Glunch. The most technical draw I have seen in my life. And then we have... Okay, sure. This can gain life. My worry with things like Glorious Sunrise is you've tagged it in multiple places, right? We've now tagged it as life gain. We've tagged it as draw. We've tagged it as... Did we tag it as mana too? We did. So we've tagged it as 3 different things, but it's not great at any of these things. I feel like you would probably be better served with a card that is way better at one of these things than a card that is just like kind of okay at any of these things. Like if I wanted life, I would do True Conviction. I've searched it before, so that seems right. Oh, I got life, baby. And like I have a 3-mana commander who I can cast on turn 2 who will make me treasures. So I'm not very afraid of having a 6-drop in my deck. Like if I need money, I'm gonna have money. So especially in bracket 2, I would not be looking for these things that are just like kind of okay and responsible all the time. I would be looking for things that are like massive dopamine hit in the exact way I want it to be a dopamine hit. It may not be applicable every game. I may have to do a lot of setup for it to be that big dopamine hit, but that's what bracket 2 is about. Like true conviction, dog shit until our board is big, until our board is wide, our board has counters on it, but oh my god, when it does, I am getting you, brother. 7 removal still fine. I would recommend not having a symmetrical board wipe. I just can't ever recommend it. I love Azuri's Predation here. I think looking at the curve you just showed me, Austere Command really seems like more up your alley. If most of our stuff is falling in 3, we'll lose some of our bigger guns, but like our commander will stick around to Austere Command. Our Nils will stick around, who's one of the interactions we liked. Bloodroot will stick around. You know, there's all this stuff that will stay around. Then Power Plus. Beautiful. What's this do? Ooh, creatures you control get +1/+1, gain double strike, destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. I'm not sure I love this because at a glance, most of your token section is not making artifacts. And so this goes even beyond, oh man, a symmetrical board wipe. This says, if I don't kill the table, if I don't get my alpha strike with step 2 of the Argent Etchings, I board wipe myself the hardest. That's tough to me. That's tough to me. She is mother, but that's tough to me. Jol Royale. So if you have a lot of cards in hand, we can give everything really high base power and toughness, overrun people. Sure. Sure. And you have a reliable way to trigger the draw second card each turn. 5 mana, other creatures get +1/+1. When a land enters, make a 1/1. This would be something I consider kind of low impact. Maybe this is why you have all that ramp that is about getting lands to field so that these feel less wasted. Landfall strategies in general, you either want the payoff to be really good by itself or you want to lean really hard in. For me, a banner of just +1/+1 and just 1/2/2 when I play the land isn't going to cut it for 5 mana, not even from a strictly tactical standpoint, but just from like a dopamine standpoint, it doesn't give me enough. That's not to say, because this has come up in previous videos, anthems are fine. Anthems can win you games. I'm about building decks that have movement. And in my heart, turning a 1/1 into a 2/2, even when it is the correct tactical position, has never amounted to movement. So I'm going to own that bias, and if it does amount to movement for you, Neil, keep this bitch in. But otherwise, I think it seems slow, it seems inefficient, and I can't see the coolness factor that is justifying her being in the bracket 2, you know, cool hangs only deck. So this seems like another reason we have 1,000,000 mana. I'm not sure I love it. Growth seems fine, especially once we get some counters on the board. Then we have some treasures, we have some token makers. So let me give it a quick little play test, see what happens. So we get to stick Reconnaissance. We have decided not to ramp to Glunch, to have Reconnaissance in play. We have decided not to ramp to Glunch for more future ramp. We play Glunch. We go to our end step. I'd probably say we let ourselves draw a card because we have this synergy on board. So I draw a card. I get to put Reliquary Tower out. Somebody else gets a counter, somebody else gets a treasure. So now, let's look at our hand. We don't have a land drop to play for turn because we're on 35 lands, which is in part why I don't love these land hit field synergies, because we want to be like pushing 40 lands if we want to be going after a landfall synergy. But if we want to build for the future, we can do Elemental Bond. And we have stuff in hand that will hit Elemental Bond. So if we really wanted cards, we could do Bond, ramp ourselves, job done. I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to play Earth Crystal. And I want to draw a card, risk it for the biscuit. Oh my god, I get a land. Holy shit. Holy shit. So now I can do Bond for 2 mana. Do I have anything I can hit for 4? I can do Contaminant Grafter for 4 mana. So I get to draw a card off Elemental Bond. Sick. I trigger On the Trail because that's my second card each turn. And then I go to end step. I don't think I need to draw. I think I'll make this guy a 9/9. I'll put 2 +1/+1 counters on him and then turn it into 4. Turn 6, I get to brush land. And I'm not going to be like super up your ass about how slow we're being because again, it's bracket 2. But when it comes to bracket 2, we don't have to get there really fast, but we have to have a really meaty thing to do when we're there. And I want to call back to what I said about the ramp and draw tags where right now we have a ton of value. We don't have a maximum hand size. We have a cost reducer that is also a mana dump that also doubles our +1/+1 counters. We have another card draw engine. We have a way to convert that card draw engine into ramp. We have a way to protect our creatures when we swing, and we have value triggers on our creatures when they swing. Oh, it's so beautiful. And I don't think we've created a single interesting political situation. I think that goes back to what you want the deck to be about, because when somebody says, oh, I want a politics deck that's going to build up a wide board, where exactly they fall on that spectrum is going to be different for everybody. For me, this is not very political at all. This current version of the deck reads to me like this is a deck where I try to I don't even pressure people. It's really I just try to like gaslight people with Glunch so that they don't pay attention to all the value I'm building up. Which comes off as awkward to me because we're not building really a Rube Goldberg machine. We're building a very standard Selesnyan beatdown machine, which usually benefits from having access to like the power and robustness of bracket 3. So I question what we're down at bracket 2 for. If we're down at bracket 2 because we want to create interesting political situations, I think you need less draw, less ramp, more things like nils that make those political situations that you enjoy. Because right now it's just like value, 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 more value with my value, and I can't really find the heart of the deck coming through. So you haven't necessarily made wrong decisions here, but I would, in response to your questions, say 10 to 15 things that are turn 1 ramp or permanents you really, really want to play before Glunch. I don't think your Pillow Fort is necessarily too much. If anything, it's not enough. Not that you need to do more Pillow Fort specifically, but if you want to be presenting your opponents with interesting choices that encourage them to not attack you, and you want that to be what the deck feels like, you need more of that for sure. Like you could even... We could do some weird shit, man. This is a very bad card, but it is a way to try to get your opponents to attack somebody who's not you. We could do Curse of Predation. This would feed your +1/+1 counter game plan. It would act as political pressure to get people to attack somebody who's not you. Like I think there's a lot of opportunity we have in the world of group hug, in the world of political pressure, that don't come across as just like Selesnya, I draw a card, I put counter on thing, I pass. Because right now we've just built a ton of good value engines, but we haven't leaned hard enough into any of them. Let me revisit the questions to see what I missed. I think too much ramp, but the curve overall is acceptable. I think Pillow Fort package is not heavy enough if you want it to feel like an interesting political deck, we need more things that in your mind create political decisions. So that is letting our opponents, like giving our opponents a carrot or a stick to attack somebody who's not me. There's also like this guy. This is a political decision that influences you to attack somebody who's not me. We need more of those to get that flavor to come through. And then out of place or low impact to me is the landfall cards on such a low land count. I think everything in your ramp and draw to a degree is we are ramping and drawing instead of playing the card that's cooler to us in the first place. But the landfall stuff in particular, we're not really running fetch lands, so we can't double trigger things. We aren't running ways to like play a ton a turn. Yeah, like the best we're doing is like, okay, Maja turn 4 and then turn 5 a land drop, and I get Nature's Lore. Holy fuck, 2/1/1s. Oh. And then the last note is I think we're a little bit distracted. I think you should commit to a lane of I'm going to play a small guy and then make them big, and that is how I get advantage. Or I'm going to play a big guy and I'm going to get advantage because they're big, which is what like Garruk's Uprising is about, what Elemental Bond is about, that type of thing, versus the category of things that is like Mentor of the Meek, which cares about, I have played a guy or I've made a guy that is small. So I would also commit to one of those paths. So I realize this is pretty like amorphous and was kind of light on specific card suggestions, but I don't think you're lacking card knowledge. I think we're just a little bit lost in the weeds of how to make this deck feel the way you want it to feel. So if you need more help on specific card suggestions, feel free to email me and I'll throw some out because I do want you to get a deck that you love. But for me, it's not coming across as a political deck quite yet.